This is Fred Martin here. Noodle is nowhere to be seen. He's MIA right now. I think he's asleep. Anyhow, this is the Trading Post podcast. This is episode 2. And we're going to dive into, you're going to love this one, the Knights Templar tonight. So, I got a little bit of information on this. We're going to dive into possibilities and a lot of different things. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's get cracking on this. And as I say, this is for entertainment purposes only. You take what you want to heart. If you don't want to believe any of it, I don't care. I've already told you that before. This is up to you. If you want to listen to this, take it with a grain of salt. However you want to do it, that's up to you. But let's keep ourselves open-minded to the fact that some things we just don't quite comprehend or can't wrap our minds around. So we're going to discuss about the Knights Templar and the situation with them, their rise to power, and their sudden decline. And maybe we can come up with some kind of an idea as to what's going on here, or what did happen. There's a lot of clues and different things. There's different stuff that has been, dug up, and archaeologists have found different proofs of things, just certain things. But we're going to get into it. Without further ado, let's get started in this. Okay? All right. So we're going to talk about the Knights Templar. Let's sit here and gnaw on this for a minute. Did they perhaps go underground during the purge? Let's see here. We're going to talk about that. Let's see here. After and during the persecution of them, did some of them go underground? This could be possible. And there has been evidence to point towards that being a good possibility. I mean, let's think about this. If you and a group of people, you're being persecuted, justly or unjustly, that's for debate. But you and a group of people were being persecuted. Do you think you're not going to try to go and go underground and get the heck away from it, from the persecution? Absolutely. I can assure you will. I know I would. So why wouldn't it be a possibility that they would? Why wouldn't it be? Can't rule that out. At least I won't. Anyhow, did some Templars survive? Did they survive the purge? Did they, go underground and do this and that and whatnot? Good possibility. Good possibility. Let's just sit here and discuss about, if they went underground, then where? Let's think about that. Where would they have went underground? Where would have been a good possibility they did this? Because at that point in time, and you got to understand, at this point in history, travel routes and, a lot of the sailing ports, things like that, those are major areas. Okay? So they would have had to have stayed away from that, roughly, stayed away from it far enough to where they was away from suspicion and they could stay hidden. So, I don't think this is a total crackpot theory. I really don't. There's been evidence that backs some of this up, that they possibly did, escape out and survived after the fact. Majority of them all were persecuted, and we all know what happened, according to history. Now, maybe we was lied to, who knows? But, it's just like the witch trials. Same thing. Burn with the stake. Back in the day, that's what they did. They didn't play games. If you was against if you was against any of their way of doing things, if you was any type of adversary, and they were very, very powerful adversaries because they had a lot of money and a lot of power. And this is why it gets to the point where, the church deemed them dangerous. Therefore, putting into the persecutions. So, think about that. Take all this with a grain of salt, as I said. You don't have to believe any of it. You don't have to believe none of it. Some of it, if you want. Parts of it, if you want. But this is coming from a lot of good research from, I've pinpointed some of this information from, the History Channel, different places. I've did my due diligence on this one. I try to do it on all of them. So, and I'm going to continue to do that. I want you guys to have whatever facts that I can find, that I can dig up, and, we can discuss it. But here's where we're going to go, okay? After 1307, records in stone exist. So did they go underground? Yeah, they did. The location, Temple Church, is a location where they went underground. Okay? In 1119 in Jerusalem, then you got 1139, 20,000 members in 20 years had survived. They was claimed to be too powerful and rich. The Catholic Church decreed them. In 1187, they survived against all odds. That's a long time. A long time for, so, and then it comes down to, there's a place they call Zedekiah's Cave. Okay, Zedekiah's Cave was a possible escape route. Why did they put numerous wells or offsets in tunnels? Think about that. Why would they do that? Why would they put a bunch of offsets in tunnels? Kind of throws people off, gives them like a fake walls, stuff like that. Was it to give them time to escape, to get plunder out, while Muslims broke down the south wall of the temple? Possibly. It's a good possibility. Think about this. If you're a group and you've got all this money, you've got all this power, like, they could legitly do whatever the heck they wanted to at that point in time, which is why this came to the ends that it did. So if they had all that money, they had the manpower, they had the time, and they could definitely make themselves more formidable than people would think in the end when it comes to any persecution, any of this, because they had to have had a failsafe. They had to have absolutely have a failsafe, because anybody in that position where you get up to the top, you don't, it's going to be a long fall if you hit bottom. So you try to prevent from that happening. And that's any group, any organization, any individual. I don't know. I mean, they talk about, the Templars. Did they actually have like the Ark of the Covenant? They have the dimensions of 31 by 31 by 52 in size. So did they actually have the Ark of the Covenant? And we can go into further detail with that too. I mean, the Ark of the Covenant, it's coated in gold. What's one of the theories? Could it have been something that was radiological inside of the Ark? Could that be why anytime it was opened, people would get killed? Radiation sickness, poison. We don't really know, except like the descriptions in the Bible of what the Ark of the Covenant was. And they're very vague. It's not, but you got to understand too, back then, there was a lot of things that couldn't be explained in terms like it can be now in modern times. So who knows? Let's see here. Let's move forward here. 1187, they faced annihilation. That changed the Templars' tactics, for years to come. No help for hundreds of miles. Let's see here, the Latrun castles, still in Templar control at the time. All this stuff you can look up. You can try and get more information on it. I tried to pick and pinpoint what I can, because there's just so much stuff that you can dig through. This is a very heavy subject. It's got a lot to it. Anyhow, the Latrun castles was still in Templar control at that point in time. We're talking at 1187 or shortly thereafter. Okay, 1250. They paid ransom for King of France of 30,000 pounds. It's a lot of money, but they had it. They had it then. And then let's see here. What else we got to talk about here? Accra was the new testing ground for new battle tactics, walls, etc. They've actually did designs where the walls would come up on an angle and then go straight up to prevent from people being able to climb the walls. Their fortifications was awesome. Like they were good. They were good at what they did. You have to step back and you have to think that at their point in time, they were the special forces. That's legitimately what they were. They were the first special forces ever. Well, maybe not ever, but that was well known, that at least that I know of. I'm sure there's others all around the world that we may not even know of, that we don't have record of. But that was them. They were the baddest of the bad. But they made their battle tactics. They did their walls. They even did subterranean mazes to confuse people. And this is where this come into play for them. It saved them in some ways, because think about that. You got subterranean mazes. You got all this plunder, per se, that's stored wherever down underneath of the forts or whatnot. It's going to take some time getting that stuff out of there, right? You got to think about that. How many pounds of gold? How many, how much of this and that did they have to lug out of that joint before, and to give them time to get it out of there safely without getting killed while trying to do that. I mean, that's a very smart tactic. Doing subterranean mazes, and only they know the way. They're the only ones that know the way through this to get through it quick. So yeah, man, they had a plan. They really had a plan. They was escape experts. They had plan B, C, D, E, all the way down. They did it. They did their thing. And honestly, I mean, you got to give them credit where credit's due. I mean, they really did. They laid it out, man. They did their thing. They did all kind of stuff. I mean, you got donations and trade and banking to support, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy when you think about this. Like, this is back in the day. Like, they was definitely ahead of their time. They really were. They had a 4-story Templar fortress in Accra, the biggest in the Holy Land. Okay? This is the biggest one that was in the Holy Land. And like we just prior discussed, they did some subterranean mazes. So you can imagine, this had to be a huge subterranean maze underneath this complex. It had to be. Because if that's the tactics that they was taking, and that's the way that they had their frame of thought was to plan ahead. Like I said, plan A, B, C, D, down through the list, to make sure that they had their bases covered. Who's to say they didn't do it with that? Daggone well they did, because if that was the biggest base they had, you can bet your bottom dollar that they definitely fortified that. There's thousands of miles of pilgrims to see relics like the cross of Jesus and etc. They would guard the pilgrims, going through these Holy Land pilgrimages. So, they made money and fees off of that. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but they, I guess it's whatever you think it is, I mean, if they was risking their lives, I guess they figured they better get paid for it. But the point is, what's right and wrong through the ages has changed so many times, and it's morphed and molded itself into different things, and so take it with a grain of salt. But you got to understand that at the same time, there was a whole different mentality back in that day and age. It's not the same as it is in modern day times right now. We got, what is it? The Grand Master of the Templars. He was above in a hiding spot, and then you got your Grand Master's vault, and the chamber, the antechamber. So you had stuff that could be pillaged that was in those as well. I mean, they had different areas, so there's a lot of stuff. They obviously had a lot of stuff, a lot. So how long would that have to take to get this stuff out of there? And how many people would it take to do it? Think about that. This ain't like you had they didn't have no Jeeps. They didn't have no Willys Jeeps or trucks or whatever. You didn't have nothing motorized hauling stuff out. It took time. You had horses and buggies. That's what you had. So it took time. It took a lot of time. Anyhow, they had escape plans for several routes. Like I said, that falls back on the ABC plan. You know what I mean? They had everything lined out. So who's to say, that these people was completely extinguished? I don't believe it. I don't doubt. Personally, I don't doubt that there are, or has been, a percentage of them that had actually gotten out safely and continued on living to the end of their days. I don't doubt it at all. It is very possible, I think. Then you got, let's see here, another bullet point I got here is the Mamluks in 1291. Acre was under siege, hundreds of thousands surrounded. The Theobald surrounded Theobald Godin and the squadron to escape by Sen. I don't know what the hell that was. So, pardon me. But yeah, I don't. That's like a partial thought, I guess. Godin and the squadron to escape. So Godin and the squadron must have escaped through these mazes, etc. Got down through. And they said it was the largest treasure ever. The amount is still to this day, it's unknown. That's crazy to think about. The largest treasure ever. That's saying something. Okay? That's why, you got people discussing about like Oak Island and how it's a possibility that, we can get into that where, Templars could have went over to Oak Island and then buried all this treasure down in there, but they must have buried it too good to where they couldn't even get it out, which is why no one has gotten it out yet, still to this day. It's a plausible theory. They secured it so well that no one can get it. No one can get it. There's fellows on the History Channel. They're working hard at trying to get to it, get to the bottom of this. But that's a very hard feat, trying to dig down and get that, whatever treasure's down there without it flooding. Because it's like they have little traps set for it, where the ocean water and stuff like that comes flowing in. It's insane. It's crazy. It said this, let's see here. It says, they reached Cyprus one day and then they sailed away. Another bullet point I got here is Paphos is a possible point of extraction of artifacts, where they could have went to that coastline and started extracting all these artifacts, getting them out safely, so that the invaders didn't have control over them. The most vulnerable transfer was from sea to land. So when you're going from sea to land, that's definitely a chink in the armor, to say the least. I mean, it takes time to do that, and to not be hit by invaders with ships of their own, or etc. You gotta. So there was a deep inlet there, and there's more possible caves for them to actually extract stuff, to do things like that at that area. Then they say there was. Let's see here. There's another point here. It was Paris had a stronghold. They had stronghold vaults, billions, and relics in vaults. Billions and relics in vaults. Wow. I can't even fathom billions of dollars. That's just crazy. It's a lot of money. And for it to be billions back, now it's not clear whether it's billions back then or billions currently. I am sure it's probably way above billions currently. You're probably looking at trillions or more, I would assume. But they talk about let's see here. Some of the stuff we got here is September of 1307, orders to arrest the Templars gave them 30 days advance to move treasure through. And this is a possible theory. And they could have possibly moved this treasure through Freemasons or Illuminati, etc. Possibility. Take it with a grain of salt, whatever. That's just one of those theories out there. But theoretically, they moved to Champagne region. They had 12 bases controlled by the end of 1307. Okay. Commanderies were vital. Possibly concealed treasure in those. The subterranean caves and all these other things that come into play. These mazes that they had. They had false walls concealing tunnels or treasures. In Tua, that was another possible hiding spot. So think about that. You guys gnaw on some of this information and tell me what you think. I mean, this is just a speck of some of the information that I dug up. There's just too much. There's too much. I mean, this is more like a several episode type of deal to actually get through all of it. But for a half an hour episode, I think this filled it out pretty nicely. So, like, subscribe, dislike, tell me you hate me, whatever. I don't care. Okay? Just mash the buttons. Do what you got to do. Tell me how you feel. Just be real. Okay? We're going to keep it 100% right here. We ain't, hiding in the bushes. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be real about things. So, y'all, keep it 100%. And, like, subscribe, comment, dislike, whatever. But I'd like to continue doing this. I actually enjoy doing this stuff. I didn't know how I'd feel about getting into this realm of doing things, but I like it. I do. And I'd like to hear some feedback from people. So please, by any means. Let me know what you think. Good, bad, and ugly. But this is the Trading Post podcast. This is episode number 2, the Knights Templar. And if you have any subjects, anything that you want to hear about, you want to talk about, discuss, get into detail about, and you want me to do more research on, even if it's a subject I've already done, that's fine, But let me know as I get better with these podcasts. I'll be able to put like pictures and photographs and different things like that to actually kind of accommodate the show. Right now, I'm a little clumsy and fumbly with it right now, but it's a progress. I'm going to improve. I'm going to work on it every day. So, y'all let me know what you think. And peace out. Have a good one.